A 14-year-old girl disappeared without a trace. Her body was found dismembered inside a sealed bag, stuffed into the trunk of a Tesla, rotting in a Hollywood tow yard. And that Tesla was registered to one of the most promising young musicians in America, a singer whose biggest hit is literally called Romantic Homicide. Stay with me, because this story is more disturbing, more layered, and more heartbreaking than any headline can possibly capture. And on April 16, 2026, it all came to a head when heavily armed LAPD detectives swarmed to Hollywood Hills' home and placed that singer, 21-year-old David Anthony Bruke, known to the world as D4vd, under arrest for murder. Held without bail, no charges filed yet. But the walls had been closing in for months. This is the full story of Celeste Rivas Hernandez, a 13-year-old girl from Lake Elsinore, California, who went missing in the spring of 2024 and was never seen alive again. This is the story of how her death unraveled the carefully constructed image of a rising pop star. And this is a story about how the internet, the very platform that made D4vd famous, may have also been the place where everything began to go wrong. Let's go back to the beginning, because to understand what allegedly happened, you first have to understand who David Bruke was before all of this, and how fast and how far he rose. David Bruke was born in Queens, New York in 2005. His family eventually moved to Houston, Texas when he was 13. He was homeschooled after 7th grade, spent his childhood singing in a church choir, and for most of his early life, the only music he ever listened to was gospel. He wasn't hanging around industry parties or chasing fame. He was a gamer, a Fortnite player, a kid who wanted to make YouTube montages of his gameplay and maybe, just maybe, go viral. And then something small changed everything. His Fortnite videos kept getting flagged for using other people's music, copyright strikes. His channel was at risk. So his mother, and this detail feels important now, his mother told him, just make your own music, stop crying about it and go figure it out. So he did. He went into his sister's walk-in closet, downloaded a free app called BandLab onto his iPhone, plugged in a pair of Apple earbuds and started recording. No studio, no producer, no budget. Just a teenage boy in a closet making music on his phone. His very first song was called Runaway. Then came You and I. Then Here With Me. And then, in July 2022, he uploaded a track called Romantic Homicide. It exploded overnight. The song hit number 3 on the Hot Alternative Songs chart. It cracked the Billboard Hot 100, peaking at number 33. It went multi-platinum. It spread across TikTok like wildfire, and suddenly this 18-year-old kid from Houston who had been recording on his iPhone in a closet was signing a deal with Darkroom and Interscope Records, the same label that had developed Billie Eilish. He went on tour. He performed at Coachella. He collaborated with artists like Kali Uchis and released a feature on the Arcane soundtrack. In April 2025, his debut full-length album Withered dropped, and his world tour followed. By every measure, David Bruke was a success story, a genuine, once-in-a-generation kind of rise. And somewhere in the middle of all that glittering success, a 13-year-old girl named Celeste Rivas Hernandez had gone missing. Celeste was born to parents who had immigrated from El Salvador. She grew up in Lake Elsinore, California, a quiet suburban town about 70 miles southeast of Los Angeles. She was a 7th grader, a daughter, a sister, and in the final year of her life, she was reported missing not once, not twice, but 3 times by her own family. 3 times. That detail alone should stop you in your tracks. 3 times her family tried to flag that something was wrong. 3 times they reached out. Each time Celeste came back, until she didn't. The last time she ran away was in April 2024. She was 13 years old. Her family reported her missing on April 5, 2024. After that, she called home one more time. One last contact, and then silence. Investigators would later determine through surveillance footage and digital evidence that Celeste was still alive as late as September 2024, and possibly even January 2025. But her family never heard from her again after that final phone call in May 2024. Now here's where the connections get deeply unsettling. According to investigators and court documents, Celeste had been a member of D4vd's official Discord server, his online community, as early as 2022. She was allegedly there when she was just 12 or 13 years old. Other users on the server referred to her as Bruke's girlfriend. According to her mother, Celeste had a boyfriend named David. Her brother told NBC Los Angeles that the family knew Celeste knew D4vd and that she had gone missing after Bruke had picked her up in his Tesla. Photographs allegedly showing Celeste and Bruke together also surfaced after her death. And perhaps most chillingly, both Celeste and Bruke had matching tattoos. The same shh finger tattoo. These are not things investigators made up. These are documented facts that emerged through court filings and grand jury proceedings. And they paint a portrait of a connection that stretches back years, long before Celeste ever went missing, long before her name became part of a criminal investigation. Think about that timeline for a second. D4vd first broke through in 2022. That is the same year Celeste was reportedly already in his Discord server. She would have been 12 or 13 years old at that point. He was roughly 17 or 18. His music was about heartbreak and loss. His online community was made up of fans, many of them young, who connected with the vulnerability in his sound. And according to everything investigators have uncovered, Celeste was not just a fan. She was someone far closer than that. Sources told investigators that Celeste had been living at a rental property with Bruke. Let that sink in for a moment. A 13-year-old girl who was supposed to be in 7th grade in Lake Elsinore was allegedly living with a rising pop star in Los Angeles, and her family couldn't find her. On September 7, 2025, the day that would have been Celeste's 15th birthday, a Tesla Model Y that had been sitting abandoned in the Hollywood Hills for more than a month was finally reported to parking enforcement. Neighbors had noticed it. No one had moved it. It was eventually towed to Hollywood Tow, a local impound lot in Los Angeles. The next day, September 8, 2025, workers at the tow yard noticed something, a smell, a terrible, overwhelming smell coming from the vehicle. They called it in. LAPD officers arrived. They opened the front trunk of the Tesla, what car people call the frunk, the storage compartment at the front of the vehicle where the engine would normally be. And there they found it, a cadaver bag, covered in insects, emitting an overwhelming odor of decay. Detectives carefully unzipped the bag. They found a decomposed head and torso. When the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's Office took over the scene, they made another horrifying discovery. The arms and the legs had been severed from the body. A second black bag was found underneath the first. Inside were dismembered body parts. The body had been inside that car for an extended period of time. Investigators believe the death may have occurred as early as spring 2025, meaning Celeste may have been gone for months before anyone found her. The cause of death was listed as undetermined due to the advanced state of decomposition and the dismemberment of her remains. Her death certificate was released September 29, 2025, listing cause of death as undetermined. The Tesla was registered in Hempstead, Texas, under the name David Anthony Bruke, D4vd's legal name. When the body was found, D4vd was actively on tour. He was in Minneapolis. His next stop was Kansas City. His public representative initially said he was cooperating with authorities. Investigators from LAPD's Robbery Homicide Division got to work. Within days, a home in Los Angeles where D4vd had previously stayed was searched by police. On September 20th, D4vd canceled the remaining dates on his U.S. tour, the final 2 shows in San Francisco and Los Angeles, as well as his entire European tour, which had been set to begin in Norway. His scheduled performance at the Grammy Museum in Los Angeles was also pulled. And here is where it gets even more complicated. Despite what his representatives were saying publicly, that he was cooperating, LAPD sources told NBC4 Investigates in November 2025 that Bruke was not, in fact, cooperating with investigators. In November 2025, the LAPD took the unusual step of obtaining a court order to place a security hold on the medical examiner's case file for Celeste Rivas Hernandez, preventing the release of the autopsy results and cause of death. The medical examiner's office publicly criticized the order, noting that security holds are rare and not proven to improve investigative outcomes. Chief Medical Examiner Dr. Ode Ukpo made clear that this was not standard procedure. Also in November 2025, law enforcement sources confirmed to multiple news outlets that D4vd had formally been identified as a suspect. An investigative grand jury had been convened. The grand jury heard testimony from multiple witnesses with connections to Bruke, including his daily manager, Robert Morgenroth. Record label executives were also questioned. His parents, Colleen and Dawood Bruke, were subpoenaed to testify before the grand jury in January 2026. The Bruke family challenged those subpoenas in Texas, arguing they were denied due process. A Texas appeals court denied their petition in February 2026 and required them to comply. Then in February 2026, court documents from Texas became public. Those documents were unambiguous. David Bruke was labeled the target of the investigation. The filing listed specific allegations including 1 count of murder. The dismemberment was described again in those documents. Body parts found in 2 bags in the vehicle's front trunk. For weeks, the case dominated online discussion, spread across social media, and became one of the most talked about criminal investigations in the country. Fans who had grown up listening to romantic homicide were now confronted with the possibility that the song's title had taken on an entirely different meaning. Meanwhile, Celeste's family waited. They had been waiting since April 2024 when they first reported her missing. They had been waiting since September 2025 when her remains were identified. And they continued to wait as the justice system moved at its own pace. Then April 16, 2026 arrived. At approximately 4:30 in the afternoon, LAPD robbery-homicide detectives moved on a residence in the Hollywood Hills, near the legendary Chateau Marmont Hotel. Arrest footage shared by the LAPD on their official social media showed heavily armed officers swarming the scene. David Anthony Bruke, 21 years old, was taken into custody. He was booked at 11:12 that night at LAPD's 77th Street station. He was held without bail. LAPD Captain Scott Williams told reporters that investigators had developed probable cause to arrest Bruke for murder and had been keeping close tabs on him. "We did the best we can to keep tabs on him, but once we developed probable cause to arrest him for murder, then we were on him pretty diligently," Williams confirmed. Bruke's legal team responded almost immediately. His attorneys, Blair Bruke, Marilyn Bednarski, and Regina Peter, issued a statement that same night. Blair Bruke is no ordinary defense attorney. She is one of Hollywood's most prominent celebrity lawyers, known for representing major public figures in high-profile criminal cases. Her involvement alone signals the seriousness with which Bruke's defense is being mounted. "Let us be clear," the attorney said. "The actual evidence in this case will show that David Bruke did not murder Celeste Rivas Hernandez, and he was not the cause of her death. There has been no indictment returned by any grand jury in this case and no criminal complaint filed. David has only been detained under suspicion. We will vigorously defend David's innocence. That is important. As of the time of this video, formal charges have not yet been filed. The LAPD plan to present the case to the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office on April 20, 2026, for filing consideration. The DA's Major Crimes Division confirmed it was aware of the arrest and would review the case. David Bruke is presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. That is not a formality. That is a constitutional right, and it matters. But here is what we do know, based entirely on verified court documents, law enforcement statements, and credible reporting. A 14-year-old girl is dead. Her body was found dismembered in a car registered to a famous singer. That singer was identified as the primary suspect by law enforcement. A grand jury was convened. Multiple witnesses were called. Court documents labeled Bruke the target and cited 1 count of murder. And now he is in custody without bail. The music industry had already begun responding well before the arrest. After Celeste's body was identified in September 2025, singer Kali Uchis publicly removed her collaboration with Bruke, a track called Crashing, from streaming services and stated that Bruke was not my friend. Icelandic singer-songwriter Laufey quietly removed her collaboration with Bruke from platforms as well. Olympic figure skater Elisa Liu announced she would change her skating routine, which had featured one of his songs. EA Sports removed D4vd's song "What Are You Waiting For" from the Madden NFL 26 soundtrack without comment. His song featuring 21 Savage, "Call Me Revenge," also became a point of grim irony online. And through all of this, through all the canceled tours, the industry distancing, the grand jury proceedings, the arrest, there is a family in Lake Elsinore, California who just want justice for their daughter. Celeste Rivas Hernandez was reported missing when she was 13 years old in 7th grade. She was found dead the day after what would have been her 15th birthday. She had been a daughter, a sister, a girl whose parents had immigrated to this country to give her a better life. A girl who called home one last time in May 2024 and then disappeared forever. Her family is now considering filing a civil lawsuit against the LAPD to force the release of evidence and records they believe have been withheld. They have waited years for answers. They deserve them. There is one more detail that has haunted people following this case online, and it comes from D4vd's own Discord server. In the summer of 2024, around the time Celeste had gone missing and Bruke was publicly describing himself as being in a song crisis, an anonymous user on his server replied to him with a message that reads like something out of a nightmare. That anonymous user wrote, "Drop the one with the missing girl Celeste Rivas Hernandez." David Bruke did not reply to that message. The name of the song he never dropped doesn't matter. What matters is that someone, somewhere, already knew. And still, a 14-year-old girl did not get justice for nearly 2 more years. This case is still unfolding. Formal charges have not been filed as of this recording. The district attorney's office will determine whether the evidence is sufficient to prosecute. Bruke's defense team has declared his innocence and said they will fight the case vigorously. A court date is expected in the coming days. Whatever happens next, the legal process must be allowed to run its course. But one thing does not need a courtroom to be established. Celeste Rivas Hernandez was a real person. She had a family who loved her. She was 13 years old when she went missing. She deserved to be found alive. She deserved to grow up. And the world should know her name. Not just in connection with a headline, not just as a supporting character in someone else's story, but as herself. A young girl from Lake Elsinore, California, whose life mattered. If this video has made you feel something, if it's made you angry or sad or determined, or just grateful for the people in your own life, please take a second and show this story some support. Hit that like button right now. It costs you nothing and it helps this story reach more people who need to hear it. Drop a comment below. What do you think about this case? What questions do you still have? This is an evolving story and we will be covering every development as it happens. And if you are not subscribed yet, now is the time. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update on this case or any other story we bring you. We cover the stories that matter, the real ones, the complicated ones, the ones that keep you up at night, and the ones that the world needs to hear. And we do it with the facts, nothing more and nothing less. Justice for Celeste. We will not let her name be forgotten. And we owe it to her, and to every family like hers, to keep